I'm going to start today by drawing lips. Lips are very curious things. Lips, of course, you have an upper lip and you have a bottom lip. The bottom lip tends to gather more light than the top lip. And that just means that you'll see more highlights on the bottom lip. And you'll also notice a dark shadow underneath the bottom lip. As you can tell, there are no outlines that exist on these lips. We're not outlined people. We're not just coloring book pages. So when you draw and you lay out line work, you want to make sure that those lines disappear later. And you'll get a sense of what I mean pretty soon. Okay? So the defining factors of how these lips look are where the dark area meets the light area. So the reason why you know that this is a lip, bottom lip, and it ends here is that you have the shadow right underneath it. And the reason why you know that this is the top lip and it begins from here is that you have a darker area starting from the top, the bottom of the top lip and going up. And as you can tell by the top of the top lip, there is no outline at all. No outlines here, just shades of gray and value changes. So I'm going to start by drawing the line, again, line, quote unquote, here for where the bottom lip and the top lip meet. And I'm actually going to measure that with paper. So I can take any sort of scrap paper. And I'm going to measure the corners of the mouth in the photo. And then I'll bring it over to my drawing to see how I did. Now here I need to go a little bit longer on either side. So I'll just put a little dot here and there. And I do want to know where the V of the middle of the lip is. So I'll just put a little line where that V is. And I'll bring it over and see what I got. Fairly accurate, but now that I've corrected the outer edges of the mouth, I'm just gonna make that be where the V happens. It's very helpful to have a pencil eraser or a pen eraser, whatever you call it. It's a stick that has an eraser, a long eraser inside of it, and you can erase out teeny tiny little details instead of using your big eraser. It's very helpful. I'm going to meet those two dots that I know are the outer edges, the edges of the mouth. And that's how I'm going to start. Now you want to use a variety of pencils. There's a reason why you have this many pencils in a set, is that you should use all of them. You've got your B pencils and your H pencils. The B pencils I like to think of as B means bold or darker, okay? The greater the B number, the darker the graphite will be. So 6B is your darkest, B is your lightest of the darks. HB is directly in the center of the gradient scale. And 4H in my pack is the lightest, and H is the darkest of the light. You should always have your practice scales somewhere nearby for you to reference how your pencils worked. You all did this, where you drew really dark with a pencil. This is an H pencil. Really dark with an H pencil, and then you went lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. So you tried to press the lightest. That's an H, that's an HB, 2B, and 4B. As you can tell, even from pressing super hard on the H and super hard on the 4B, they look very different. So if there's an area of gray that you need to be solidly penciled in, but not super dark, you might just want to press hard with your H pencil to get that value of gray, that shade of gray, okay? So this is a great reference to keep nearby so that you know, oh, I want this gray that I did with my HB pencil and I pressed almost as hard as the hardest pressure. Right now I'm just using HB to kind of lay some things out for measurement. I'm gonna go ahead and draw where I know the shadow is for the bottom of the lip. I'm just gonna put it in nice and light for now. And then I'm gonna start kind of mapping out the top lip. Think of them like mountains. This top lip, you've got one peak. Of course, it depends on the person's lips, how dramatic their mountains are. I don't have a very big top lip myself, so I would say I have the mountains of Iowa on my face. I'm going to look back and forth between what I've drawn and the actual photo. And if I'm doubting what I've done, I can always take a piece of paper and I can measure out with little marks. This is the middle of the top lip from the halfway point to the very dip in the valley there, and that looks pretty good. I feel as if right now I just sort of need to keep going and not worry too much about what doesn't look right to me, because I'm just kind of laying out the shape of the lips right now. All right, that's it for the start. Now what I need to do is, of course, make it look realistic. So I'm going to start using a variety of pencils and filling in the values. I'm going to start with the value right here for the top lip. That's kind of a middle gray. It's not too dark, it's not too light. And when I shade the first layer for the lips, I'm just going to go back and forth like this. And remember, when you shade, that you pretend as if you're a little printer that's printing from a computer. And you're going back and forth. If you go back and forth nice and slow and take your time, and you try to use the same amount of pressure consistently through a single value that you need to achieve, then you won't get any white little gaps. If I were to shade really quickly, like this, I would have little white spaces. And then I would have to go back in and try to correct what I did, and then I would still have little white spaces. And I have to do it a third time. So this takes just as much time as if you were to go back and forth nice and slow, and you would not need to correct anything. I still have to correct this one. And what happened here is I have darker, lighter, darker, lighter. That's not consistent. So just take your time. Don't rush. It's not a marker, it's a pencil. It's not going to fill in consistently unless you're consistent. So I'm going to continue adding this shade in. Why am I not shading dark in this area first? I don't need to. And there's another reason for it as well. We'll get to it in just a moment, because I'm going to change up the direction of my shading. And as I get to the peak of the mountain, I am going to shade. I'm going to use my pencil to emulate or mimic the shape of the mountain. So I'd go up like this and down, up and down, instead of straight across. That just gives it more dimension. So that's what I have so far for the top lip. And it always helps to have two pencils so that you can point and reference. So that's the gray that I'm trying to get to. Sorry, that's the gray I'm trying to get to. And this is the gray that I have created. I want to kind of glance back and forth, shift my eyes back and forth to make sure that I've achieved that gray. And if I haven't, I'll just bump up the contrast. And that just means, when I say that, make it a little bit darker. Okay, I think I'm pretty satisfied for right now. I'm going to get myself a darker pencil. Maybe start with a B. If I need to change up pencils later, I can do that if it's not dark enough. I'm going to start making the top lip pop out more by bumping up the contrast where that midway line is. And I feel like this B pencil is not quite dark enough right now, so I'll change it up. Maybe to a 3B. I think this pencil will work really well for the middle, which actually I'm going to stick with this one. This is a 3B. I'm going to shade from that mouth line going up until, so from right here to about right there. I'm going to add the 3B pencil and make it darker. And then I will go in with a darker pencil and then make this area right along the very crease darker. You want to think about drawing with pencil as if you're creating layers. The lighter layers are the first ones to be laid out, and then you just continue getting darker from there. It is very tempting to just sort of go right away to the dark values, but it will help you understand how the values within something you're trying to draw create that dimensionality of whatever it is, because there are layers. Okay, I'm going to continue using this 3B pencil. I've gone from that midway line up to halfway point, making it a little bit darker. I'm going to press a little bit harder in spots that I know that I see over here are darker. The corners of the mouth are going to be darker areas, because that's where the shadow lies. Here's the trick with lips. You have lines in your lips that define the shape even further. If you were look at a pumpkin, or well, this looks more like an apple, but in a pumpkin you actually have lines that define its roundness. It's like a grade school pumpkin. Okay, but you have these lines that emulate, that sort of reflect that it's round, to go with the round shape and inform you, who's looking at said pumpkin, that it's round as well. The same thing actually goes for lips. It's kind of like pumpkins in a way. Like the bottom lip, if I were to kind of outline more dramatically the lines that make up that bottom lip, it more look kind of like this. But what does happen in these particular lips is that you don't see it so dark in the center of those lines. And I probably should use at some point, when I get to that, a lighter pencil. The same thing does happen with the top. You have the lines. The lines actually go like this. So I am going to shade with my pencil going in this direction on the side here, and then I'll kind of go the other direction like that on this side. It's not as noticeable and dramatic as it is on the bottom lip, but it's there. So I'm going to take the same pencil I was using, the 3B, and I'm going to start adding my line work that now it starts from that line for the mouth. So line for the mouth and goes up and kind of fades away. It fades away into the middle. And if I build up enough of those lines on top of each other, so this guy looks kind of weird right now, first of all, because there's no shade of gray behind that, but also because they're kind of spread out. But if I were to add more lines that are similar in their curvature, it will blend itself together, as you can see. It will be a little less awkward. When drawing natural things and natural faces, it's random. So like the pumpkin is the lines are very separate from each other. But when you think about drawing eyelashes or drawing the texture of the lips, you kind of have to be a little more random and not be so calculated with how you draw with the pencil. Don't think too much about it, just kind of go with it. I am building up the dark value here and then bringing that gray into the middle and letting it fade away. And that's what happens in here. Kind of, this is the darker little fingers that kind of curl up in the lips and then they fade away in the middle. So it doesn't look like it's a weird mouth mustache. I can start to see if I'm training my eyes like little fingers that come up of dark area. And I can reflect that in my own drawing wherever I see it happening. Just kind of shading on top of the little fingers that I made to kind of blend them away right now. Again, it's all about layers. So I've added a layer of line work that curls up to make it look like it has some texture and roundness to it. And now I'm going to kind of fade it away by pressing lightly and blending it. And I see like little lines that kind of speckle in here, little dots. I can kind of add that too, wherever I see it happening. If you see something, it's probably right. Try not to doubt yourself too much. If you're like, I don't know, that shape right there for that part of the lip looks like it's a finger pointing off to the left, then draw what it looks like. Or that looks like a dog's head. I don't know. Draw the shape of what you think it looks like, what you see. Trust yourself. Your perceptions will improve over time as you're training yourself to look intensely at something. So I've added a bunch of texture to the lip here, and I'm actually gonna use a darker pencil. I'll go all the way to my 6B, and I'll sharpen up that mouth crease. And now I'm taking the 6B, and after I pressed harder at that mouth line, I'm going to kind of fuzz away. When I say fuzz away, I'm just sort of going like this with my pencil, and I'm pressing lightly, and it kind of softens something. and blends. That's how you blend. Again, layers. Lots of layers. I think this curve is not as curvy as I would like it to be. So I'm actually going to take the eraser pen, and even if I can't erase that down to the weight of the paper, it doesn't matter, because that right there where my eraser was is going to be gray. Okay, so it's fine. It's actually better than it's not going down to the weight of the paper, because it's not white right there. That's it for now for the top lip. Now, the graphite of the pencil is always going to look different than the actual printout from your printer. So this is a deeper black. And this is shiny because of the material. Graphite is shiny. So, I'm going to start working on the bottom part of the lip. The bottom part is definitely lighter than anything happening up here. So I'm going to take maybe my H pencil right now, see what that does for a little while. This is not white. This is probably your lightest pencil in the middle. I'll start with my H, and I'm going to start shading along that mouth line, the crease that's dark. Let's see if I can match those grays, those values. So I'm going to stop talking for a little while, and I might speed up the video so you can see what will happen a little faster. But I might change my pencil up every now and again to get to a darker gray for certain spots. Go back in with darker pencil, especially underneath here. When you start to shade the underneath the bottom lip, you're going to think, oh my gosh, it looks like a goatee. But don't think like that. It's only because you're staring at it for a long time that it becomes something else. And once I've shaded all around the mouth like this, it won't look so awkward and floating in space over here. So I'm going to stop talking for now, and I'm just going to draw and eventually speed up this part of the video. You're filling in the skin tone around the detailed facial features. You can definitely use the side of your pencil as a means of going a little faster. And of course you can use a blender or a piece of paper towel to smooth out the line work that you use, that you create with the pencil. But I do want to add some skin tone around these lips, so they don't look like they're floating in space. If you are using the side of your pencil, try not to push hard and then soft, hard and then soft. If you're trying to create a consistent gray value to that area, you really need to try to regulate your pressure. And as well as with, if I were to shade it with the tip of the pencil, I do need to really make sure I don't travel too fast and skip around, because that's just going to make things slow down and things will take longer. So if you are going to use a blender, you can use a blender. I actually don't have one here with me because I don't really use them. But you can, if you do need to make your own blender, you can just take a little piece of paper towel or a napkin, kind of crumple it up and use that to blend. gray. And smooth things out. I wouldn't do that for the lips any time past the first layer, because then you'll ruin that beautiful line work that you make in texture with the lips, because there's definitely texture and lines within the lips. I'm going to take a look at that gray that I have made for outside the lips, and I'm going to reference the gray value that's in the photo, and I'm going to look back and forth, and I notice that this gray is okay for here, but it needs to be darker out here. So what I can do is actually just take the same pencil, which is H, and go on top of what I've blended for that gray, and that should bump it up a little bit. Or what I could have done instead of adding 2 layers of H pencil is I could just use an HB pencil, and that would have been fine too. I know we talked about the different pencils as if they're different tools, kitchen tools. You got your spoon, you got your knife, you got your spatula, your whisk. All things do something different and all are necessary. I'm going to focus on pressing a little harder where I know that it's a little darker in the photo. So again, I'm going to speed up the film here as I go. So what's happened is that I continued the gray value that I created here, and I pushed it up there to fill in the skin tone. And then what happened was the top lip got lost. And that's going to happen to you as you're drawing. The values will start shifting because you're making one area the correct value, and then the next area all of a sudden it becomes too light. So you'll need to bump up the contrast of that area. So that's what I'm going to do. I can still take, with the top lip, I can still take my H pencil, press a little bit harder to make that top lip reappear. But in the photo, the top lip definitely fades away a lot here and here. So I'm not going to press super hard in those spots. It's a little more clear in the middle here. So I'll press a little bit harder and make it more defined. But it does kind of, the top lip of this person kind of fades. The graphite pencils tend to look a little warmer gray. And what you're going to print out is going to be kind of a cooler gray. Temperature-wise, that's what it means, warmer and cooler. Like a little lighter, I guess you would say. And this always kind of looks a little bit darker because of the cool quality of it. It's a different black ink than it is the gray of your pencil. If something looks flat to you and it doesn't look realistic, it's because you need to press harder and create more contrast in a certain area. And that might look weird to you because it will look very different, but that's fine. If it looks weird to you, it's probably right. So I'm going to focus on the bottom lip a little bit more now. And I'm going to start, say I have this gray value that was my first light value that I made. And then I added a darker value for the skin and around the lip. So now that's my lightest. I'm going to keep it like that. But now I'm going to think about that pumpkin again. And I'm going to add some line work, some light line work in here that builds up, especially at the bottom here and the top. The middle, you just see faint pumpkin lines. I'll start with this one. I know this one's really dark right here. So I'll find where that little curved line is, and I'll add that in. It'll look like a little snaggletooth. But once I have more around it, it won't look so weird. And I see some other ones that are closer together and a little bit lighter. They get smaller. This one's the longest one, and then they get smaller as they go towards the corner of the mouth. Make this area a little bit darker. Press a little harder with my H pencil. And then I might switch it up real quick to an HB and press a little harder right here. Kind of fuzz in. This line is, this is pretty definite right here, but then it gets a little fuzzy in there. So underneath that mouth line, I'm going to go in a little darker. Just sort of fuzz it away. And I'm going to continue my pumpkin lines. I see some of them right here. They're very faint and they go up. So there's one that actually starts here and goes up. So right now this area looks kind of like, I'm kind of drawing with my hand in between the tripod of this video camera. So if there's some shaking, that's what's going on. This is the zoomed in version of what I just did in here. So as you can see, there's a line that comes from the bottom of the bottom lip and goes up and kind of in between these two lines that come from the top of the bottom lip. So they're like fingers, sort of go like this. Almost touch, but not. I'm going to continue to build up this bottom area by taking my pencil and just doing this slowly. Every so often I'll go up a little bit more, go lower, then go up, then go lower, then go up. So it's going to look like this. You can see I have some that go up and some that are lower. So it's low, 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 up, low, 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 up. Okay. And if you do the lips before you end up doing the eyes, you're going to be a master at eyelashes because the eyelashes are just a similar technique. And I can see, you're going to start to see little details, fine details as you go, but there's like a little snaking of a shape right here. There's like a little bit of a, kind of goes like this and back up and down. If you see something, it's probably there. Okay, so put it in. You're like, oh, there's like a little squiggle right there. And put it in. If you see it, don't doubt yourself. That's how you train your eyes. If there's darker areas on top of what you just did, go back and put them there. It'll look weird to you, but when everything else is filled in, it will no longer look strange. So there's this line right here in the middle. So I'll take a B pencil, why not? See how dark that gets, and if that's something I will continue to use, that's fine. Okay. I'll go back to my H. I'll continue making the texture right here all the way along as I have been doing. Drawing with a pencil happens in layers. The more layers you have, the more realistic whatever it is that you're drawing will look like. So now I'm building up this corner, the bottom lip shape. So I'm taking my pencil, going like this, and then a little one, long one, little one, and then they get smaller as they go to the corner. Those curved lines that I've made. I'm going to look over here, see if I need to bump up any contrast, making something darker. And then I'm going to start to fill in the top. I'm going to go in from the top down. Going from that dark little finger. And I'm going to, they're super light. I don't even know if you can see it on the camera. Yeah, a little bit. There's these lines that round with the shape of the lip. I'm going to put those in. It helps sometimes to, I don't know if everyone can do this, but if you kind of cross your eyes a little bit, it will fuzz your focus. And if you fuzz your focus on your drawing, it will look a little less strange to you because it'll take all those textures that you've built up and kind of smudge them together. I continue to work on the top part of the bottom lip. Now I'm going to work on underneath the bottom lip, and that's the area that makes it pop out. So I'll take that area. This area is actually not as dark as the crease for the mouth, so I'm not going to go too dark with my pencil. I kind of got ahead of myself right there. I'll take a 3B, start out with that and see how I go. This area is very smooth. There's no texture in this shadow. So if I want to, I can take my blender or paper towel and kind of smooth it out if I choose, or if I just sort of shade kind of slow, it'll do the same thing for me. I don't think the 3B is dark enough, so I'm going to bump it up. Try the 4B. I think that's a little bit better. There's a gap that happens between this dark area here and then the next dark area. There's a light spot right here. So it goes dark, light, dark. You need to start seeing these things because these things exist. Don't edit something out if you're like, I don't know how to do that, or I don't think that's right. Just do it and you'll be better for it. I promise you. That's how you get better. If you want to improve your skills, you need to match what you see, as weird as it looks to you. Once I lay down that dark tone, I'm gonna go back and, oh yeah, I can already tell that I've gone a little too far up with my dark shadow here. I've lost some of that bottom lip. Maybe it's my own jealous tendencies because I don't have very big lips. So I'm gonna I'm gonna go as far. Oh no, now I have to fill that space in. It's alright. It's alright. I'll just take my H pencil again and kind of fill it in. I'll speed up this part of the film. All that beautiful line work I made. It's okay. Everything is fixable. If you notice something is off about your drawing, fix it. You can always get it back to where it was before, unless for some reason you drop it in a puddle. And then that's it. Sorry. I'm gonna go a little darker over here. Alright. Alright, take two. So that means that this shadow's gonna end up moving a little bit. It's all good. Try to match that gray again. Get my 4B pencil back over here. Make that little shadow swoopy happen again. I do see that it's real dark right in here. Right in there. I don't know if you'll see it on camera, but that's what I can see. So I'm gonna go right in here because that's probably the darkest spot. Right under that lip. And I'll bump that up a little bit. And I'll go back to my 4B that I was using before. And I'll keep going. I'm going to keep blending it going down so that doesn't look, that's how you end up making this not look like a goatee, is to make that dark area blend with the next part of the skin. And this is the chin right here that's been cut off. So this is going to be lighter because underneath your lips you have that dark shadow and then your chin pops out further, not as far as your bottom lip, but then that's why it starts getting light again right there. So this is a little valley of your face in between your bottom lip and your chin. So I'll go back to my H pencil and I'll just sort of extend this down a little bit. There's the chin. Take a B. My pencils travel over the other side there. Take a B and just sort of blend together those dark patches a little bit by pressing lighter right here where it does get dark to where it is light. So it looks like it transitions a little slower. And if I do that and I lose the dark value that I should have, just bump it up. It's a give and take with pencils, graphite pencils. It's constant edits that happen until you're done. And then there's no more edits. I'll go back to my H pencil real quick, and I'll keep on blending. Pressing a little light, avoiding this part of the chin right here that pops out. And then I bump up the value right there because that looks too light to me now. And once I do that, I've lost my shadowy area underneath it a little bit. And I'll go back to my other pencil and my A4B and kind of go lightly on top. Draw a shade lightly on top to bump that up again. I'm constantly looking back and forth between my drawing and the picture to see if things are correct for the values. All right, I'm gonna stop there and take a look again at the top lip. I actually think I don't think this is as long as it used to be. I can actually check that with a piece of paper that doesn't have lines on it. Somehow this looks smaller than the other one, so I'm just gonna check it. Those are the corners of the mouth. Yep, so what I had is the ends of the shadow area here are basically what I have here is right here, and I actually want to bump it out a little bit more. Extend it. I use the word bump out a lot. So I'm going to extend it. So I'll extend this corner of the mouth a little bit further and move the shadow a little bit over. And I'll do a similar thing on this side. I think this curve is a little different than what I have, so I'll just kind of make that a little less dramatic. Extend that out a little bit, like there, and then have the shadow, extend my little pocket of shadow a little bit farther out, like that. And that looks a little bit better to me. I'm gonna take my 6B and I'm gonna bump up the contrast a little bit. Shade lightly first. Push really hard at that line for the crease of the mouth. And I think the shadow happens a little, like the pocket of the shadow extends a little bit more from that crease. So I'll go this way. I'll go up a little bit. Just basically taking the that dark value and bringing it up a little bit farther into the top lip with my darkest pencil, and I'm pressing hard at first and then easing off my pressure as I go up. And that's how smooth blending occurs, is the change in your pressure. Oh, and of course you've got some beauty marks. Hello. There's the beauty mark right there. There's a beauty mark over here. There's a beauty mark over there. This person's very beautiful. that's it for lips. I would go again with the pencil, maybe my 4H pencil. I don't think I've used that one yet, have I? I don't remember, it's all a blur. I'm gonna try to smooth things out. You treat your 4H, your highest H pencil, as a blender itself. So if I go very lightly in spaces I can see have little white dots that I don't want to exist, I'm just gonna press very lightly on top of that. And I might kind of extend my light gray down into the middle of that bottom lip again. I definitely have to make this a little darker right here, but I'm just gonna do that so the transition happens a little less quick. Like from here to there, it goes from darker to lighter without a transition. So I'm just going to shade very lightly in the space between them to blend them. And if I need to redefine any little pumpkin line, I can go ahead and do that at this point too. Or if something needs to get a little darker, this is the time to shift your values a little bit. This line's very dark and that doesn't really happen over there. So if I notice something's not correct, I gotta fix it. Even though I have to fix what I erased, that's not right. Okay, so that's it for right now. Thanks for watching.